right. We're in. We're balling. We already got a no in the chat. No in the poll. Let's see what you guys think. What you guys think? We got a no. Let's see. Gee. Welcome back. Brandon, if you don't subscribe, bro, you love me. Come on, bro, you love me. Do you have an argument this time, or are you just here to hang? You want to play some Slay the Spire? Play some video games? How's the stream looking? Any IT advice? Did you subscribe, bro? I don't think you subscribed. Get on that. Oh, you been subbed. All right. All right. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Good stuff, man. I appreciate that. What you want to do? You want to talk about the same stuff, or you want to, what should we do? There we go. Looking good. All right, all right. Where are you from, Brandon? Let's get to know you a little bit. Where are you living? Where are you at? Are you a comic, like a comic book person, or are you a comic like a stand-up comedian? Or none of the above? And do you want to join the Discord? You're more than welcome to join the Discord, brother. Actually, not only are you welcome, I'm gonna compel you to join the Discord because this is getting ridiculous, bro. You do stand up, sweet. What city are you in? Oh, you're transient. You go from town to town. You're on the rails. Where'd you grow up? Where were you born? Military kid? You ride the rails since birth? If your God wanted me in the Discord, I'd be there. I completely agree with that. Could not agree more. What do you want? What do you want, Brandon? I love it's like your God. You started capitalizing God. We're getting somewhere with Brandon. We are getting somewhere with comic Brandon. I'll tell you. We'll get somewhere yet with comic Brandon. Woonsocket, right, Rhode Island, home of the CVS. Isn't everywhere home of CVS? Or is that where it started? Woonsocket, Rhode Island. That sounds like a fun place to grow up. How close is it to Providence? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Isn't it funny? Your phone believes in God, but you don't. Isn't that a bitch? Isn't that a bitch, Brandon? So what, you started comedy in Rhode Island? Providence? All right, all right. How long you been doing stand-up for? Is that Shalai? No way. Tell me that's Shalai Ogbemi. Were you in Manville, bro? You were, right? Got banned from the only club in the state within 6 months. But you've been doing it for 8 years. Why'd you get banned, Brandon? Tell me why you got banned. The devil overcame you? What's up, Shalai? Welcome to the stream, bro. Welcome, my friend. Do you have any questions? If I remember correctly, and from the way you're talking, you were in the choir. You love God. Yeah, you and Sean and the gang. Hell yeah, dude. Sean Sharavna. We got to get Sean in here. We got to get Sean Sharavna in here. And teach him a thing or two. Don't you think, Shalai? You got any questions, bro? Got any, Do you believe in God, Shalai? Let me know. Let me know. I think you do. I have a feeling you do. Love God, bro. Love God. What should we tell Brandon about him? Brandon doesn't believe in God. Brandon doesn't love God. I spent 2 hours with him yesterday trying to explain the cosmological argument. You ever heard of that, the cosmological argument? Hop in this Discord, by the way, Shalai. No, don't be afraid. Unless you're at work currently. Yeah, Sean could use it. Sean could use it. I'm not sure the DMT aliens are as useful to Sean as God might be. Okay, finally, a question. All right, Jonathan Hamilton. Why would God allow for child rape? If it is moral for us to stop it, then why not the same for God? Well, who said that God... Okay, I'll get to Shalai, but this is fundamentally a sort of an apologetic stream, channel. I'm trying to engage in arguments first, and then I'll get to my personal testimony, which I do actually think is more powerful as a tool for conversion. But why would a God allow for child rape? If it is moral for us to stop it, then why not the same for God? Well, who said God doesn't stop it? Who said that in all the instances in which child rape is stopped, God is not responsible for that? And who says that in his eternal kingdom, the place where he really resides, where we're all destined to end up, right? Who says that there's child rape there? Now, the important question is, who caused child rape? Yes, God, everything happens within God's purview, and God's glory and power is so great that he's able to turn the worst possible things, like child rape, into the best possible thing, like the kingdom of heaven, right? He's allowed, because he's so powerful, to transmute something horrible into something good. But did he create child rape? Did he cause that directly to come into being? No, he doesn't only stop a few, but he does stop the few that he does, right? Or his influence, or Christians or good people stop child rape, certainly. But let's talk metaphysically. Is it impossible for God to turn any bad into good? Is it possible for him to turn all bad into good? No, God did not create evil in the way that you're straw manning me and assuming he is. Does he allow for evil? Yes, God allows for evil. Who created evil? Well, let's talk about how he created everything first. So just so we're clear, you guys are moving on to the problem of evil. Have we gotten past the fact that God exists? You guys can accept for argument that there is a God, right? For at least for the sake of this argument. Also, can one of you hop in this Discord for for the love of Christ? It's so much easier. It's so hard for me to jump back, especially with the time delay, and like read your messages and try to respond and keep a coherent thought and try to respond. And I, the Lord, hey, great quote. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. All right, well, I agree with that. Let's talk about, I do want to see what the Hebrew directly translates to in terms of create evil. But the context of this is important, right? So what does it mean that God created evil? Well, he obviously created his angels, right? He obviously created the angels in heaven, all the higher order beings, including the angel that through his free will decided to fall and basically instill all the violence and pain and suffering in the world, right? Okay, we got a Jonathan in the chat. Welcome, Jonathan, in the Discord. Let's invite him. Jonathan, hop in that general chat if you will. Or no, I'll invite you to... Sorry, guys, I know you can't see what I'm seeing. Let me show you my Discord. We're inviting Jonathan so we can talk about this in person. What's up, brother? What is up? Welcome. Okay, how do I invite you to... I'm like technologically illiterate, so you have to, to bear with me for 1 second. Jonathan, can you join that? I think you're the one that asked that question, yeah? Let me know if you can join that, Jonathan. All right. Okay. All right, let's get back to the meat of this. All right, is it possible for God to convert bad to good? Yes, obviously. That's within his power, within his right, and that's actually what he shows us through his son, Jesus Christ. That's the whole story. That's the whole message of that story. All right. What is God's nature? Well, we know that God is love, right? God is love. So if God is going to create beings, agents in the world, he wants to give them free will, right? Yeah, don't hurt me too bad, John. If Jonathan wants to hurt me at all, he has to join the Discord, and I would invite him to freely. I'd love him to join. It would be way easier to have this conversation. Okay. So, do we concede, because we concede that God exists for this argument, at least, I know you guys are all atheists, but we concede that he exists for this argument, do we concede that he created the devil? Did God create Satan? Yep, David, we're getting there. We're getting to how God created everything. And I'm going to give you a logical pathway, a reason for how evil enters the world per a loving God who created everything. Let's get to the root of why you need God. What's going on in your life? What are you, a priest? Comic Brandon? You mock the religion, you mock me, you mock Christianity, you mock God, but... Oh, okay, yeah. It's because it's... Don't click join voice. Go to the general text chat and... Oh, wait, are you trying to join there? Here, let me see if it works to... open chat? Nope, not that. Sorry. Okay, can you join the general one? Can you join the general one, Jonathan? Okay, welcome,
Hello?
brother. Welcome. You have a camera, Jonathan? You want to turn that camera on?
Yeah.
Sick.
Second.
Welcome to the stream, my friend.
What's
What's going on here? Oh Lord, this is confusing.
Okay, welcome.
How you doing, Jonathan? Oh my God. Hold on. I am so technologically illiterate. All right. Why is this? Oh, because this is why. Okay, here we are. How you doing, brother? So, is your question is about why God could allow for child rape or just horribly immoral things, correct?
Giving you feedback here.
What's that? What's that, brother? Sorry, I missed you. You getting feedback? Is that what he said? Shit. I lost him. Not sure what happened. All right, I got to figure all this out. So confusing. Why is technology so confusing? And why is this backwards? What the hell? Oh my. Yeah, Jonathan does have a sick stash, I gotta say. He's got a great camera quality too. I'm jealous of that. Let's see what happens here. Okay, stream in Discord. Oh, because if I stream Discord and stream myself, then there's something very wrong. Gotcha. Okay. So I have not thought this through. Hmm. Testing. Okay, so the sound should be coming through on that. Can we get you back, Jonathan? Is there any way? Okay. Can you hear me? Is that working? All right. I'm not sure if I can hear you per se. Say something, Jonathan? Okay, cool. Okay, sick. I am so this is crazily confusing. Okay. Why don't we do it like this? Can you hear me, Jonathan? You all good? No, it's all like feedbacky and crazy. Shoot. Um Damn, man. I wish I was a genius. Okay. What should I do here? Yeah, because when you talk, I'm not hearing nothing. Yeah, I'm not hearing nothing for some reason. Okay, my output device. Okay, it should be this. Say something, Jonathan. Okay. Hmm. I see what the problem is. All right, we can just use text chat for now. That's all right. Um, I will figure this out by next time. I promise. Hopefully, even by the end of this stream. Okay, so bring me back, Jonathan. What are we talking about here? What are we talking about? You're saying why does God allow moral evil, moral rape, or child rape, terrible things? Right. Okay. Do you concede, for the sake of argument, there's a God, and do you concede that God created the devil, Satan? Again, I don't think you believe this. I'm just wondering, for the sake of argument, can we talk about Christian God? Seeing as that's the one I believe in, that makes the most sense. Okay, cool. So if God's going to create an agent with that can make choices, that can act in the world, is would it be loving for him to create one that has no free will? Like if I told you I loved you, and I told you I loved you so much. Yeah, if I told you I loved you and I love you so much, even that I'm going to chain you to the radiator in my basement. You don't get to make any choices, but I love you so much that I get to keep you forever and you do exactly what I say. Is that a loving relationship? Does that make sense? Is there free will in heaven? That's an interesting question. I would say there's just God's will in heaven. Um, so that is an interesting question. It's not really an answer to my question, but is there free will in heaven? I would assume that in heaven, everybody's will, if you're there, you've been purgated and you've been purified to the extent that your will is the will of God's. So I guess, yes, there is free will, but it's also providential. Yeah, right. That would not be a loving relationship at all, would it, if I chained you to my radiator, right? Okay, so when God creates the angels, what makes you believe that he wants to chain them to a radiator? Can he take away their free will? and still be a loving God? Every father would send his child away from him if the child, was horrible to him, to the father. So I don't know what your point is there, David. So like if I had a kid and the kid kept stabbing me in the kidney every time I went to go give him a hug, I would say, you know what, this kid's not allowed in my house anymore, wouldn't you? Okay. No, I'm not changing any context. I don't know what context we have to ignore Brandon sometimes. He gets a little rabid. He doesn't know what he's talking about a lot of the times. Uh, no, not for eternity, but until the kid no longer stabbed me in the kidney, right? Is that fair? Oh, I wish I could figure out this Discord. It'd be so much easier. Okay, let me see what I can do. But I do want to keep having this conversation because it. No, the father would teach his child or punish him for a little while. That's what I believe hell is like. Okay. Well, how do you know what God does and what He sends people to hell for, and how long hell lasts for? I know you have all the straw man arguments that basically fundamentalist Christians would proclaim and say, but I don't claim to have that knowledge about hell. That it is like, one, okay, how about I present this to you? I don't want to say any sort of heresy. I don't want to say this is any church position, but this is at least one of the real possibilities of hell. Is that you guys heard of Carl Jung? I'm not sure if hell is temporary or eternal, but I'm going to explain to you a possible solution to the problem of, how you could eternally damn someone to hell, right? Okay, you guys heard of Carl Jung? You heard of the concept that your person is made up of thousands of different personalities, different archetypes, the collective unconscious, so to speak. Okay, cool. So you know about that. So what if there's a heaven, a place where you get to hang out with God eternally for the entire like in infinite existence, and God is infinitely good, he's infinitely just, he's infinitely wise, he's infinitely loving, he's all the best things combined. And a lot of those things would cancel out your negative personalities. Like, there'd be no way for a murderous, hateful, spiteful person to exist in heaven with God. Can you see that? Is that fair? That's what the whole doctrine of purgatory is about. That even good people, when they die, they need purgation, right? They need to be cleaned. They need to be purged of the negative qualities about them, which would prevent them from ever sharing some sort of like space, or it's not really space, but sharing a metaphysical position with God. Okay. No, if there's no such thing as hell, then there is no justice. So what? Hitler just gets to do the same thing as everyone else? The worst people ever get to do the exact same thing as everybody else, either, as the atheist would say, die into non-existence, or I guess as you might be trying to imply with your constant straw man in comic Brandon, that everybody goes to heaven. I don't believe that. But in the Carl Jung example, what is to say that all your negative personality traits, your murderousness, lies, your sinful nature is cast into hell to be burned in hellfire for eternity, while the good parts of you are synthesized and sent to heaven? How do you know that's not the case? What's so unjust about that? Hell is the negation of justice. The aim of justice is rectification. With an infinite punishment, there is no possibility of rectification. Okay, now let's talk about this. This is interesting. How do you know that hell is infinite and is not just the entire expanse of time, right? Isn't there a difference between that? If you're in hell infinitely, eternally, the way that God is in heaven eternally, or if you have to spend the because again, I'm not assuming that time is infinite. Time has a beginning and an end, according to my tradition and according to logic, which we can get into, according to philosophy, Aristotelian philosophy. All right, let's look up Matthew 25:46 because I love when we get a scripture. That's good. Okay, Bible Gateway. Yeah, I want to look at the context of this. What did you say? 25:46. Okay. And then shall he answer them, saying, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye did it not to one of the least of these, ye did it not to me. And these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into life eternal. Do you understand the difference between eternal life and everlasting life? You slightly misquoted this here. I'm using the King James Version. I'm not sure what you're using. I think the King James Version is more accurate than like the NIV or NRSV, if that's what you're using. But you see what the distinction I'm making between everlasting, as in lasting for the entire span of time, versus eternal, as in never beginning and never ending? Right. There are many interpretations. I'm giving you one possible interpretation that I haven't fully decided on because I'm not sure if it's a heresy or not. I'm still young in my journey and trying to figure everything out. But I also have to contend with this. Like, how does God exist with hell? It does seem on the most basic level, it seems unjust. But if we do away with the whole doctrine, then what does that leave us? That leaves us with no moral objectivity. That leaves us with no way to say that Hitler is wrong and a saint or whatever, a good person is right, right? Someone who spends their whole life, I don't know, being a firefighter or donating to charity or doing charity. You can't grasp infinite without a beginning. Well, just because there's a lot of ways to interpret it doesn't make it wrong. In fact, that actually makes it right. It makes it more right because there's more truth in there if there's variation and complexity and nuance to the text that needs to be interpreted, right? There are many interpretations. How long hell? No, okay. No one said what. Sorry. Again. This is on me. This one's totally on me. I was calling you guys cowards for not joining the Discord earlier, but this is 100% on me. So if I were to stream my Discord, no, Discord. How do I do this? In what way is God purposely confusing people? Why would God not have many, like, why would God's answers to things be simple? You think God is simple? You think he's simple like a human, like you and me? Do you think his ways are easily definable, easily understood? What makes you think that? That seems less probable to me than the fact that he would create a complex text that has different interpretations. I like Jonathan's question though. Doesn't the idea of multiple personalities go against the concept of the soul? I'm not sure. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the soul is the unifying factor, the thread that runs through all the multiple personalities and ties them together. But surely the part of me that is hateful and spiteful and jealous cannot enter into heaven. That makes no sense. How can my hateful, jealous soul, like personalities, I mean, enter into heaven? What, don't they have to be cut away from my soul? Yeah, David, I don't understand this point. This makes no sense to me that the multiple interpretations of the different versions of the Bible and other teachings negates the fact that there is a true teaching or is a truth. And it definitely doesn't negate if they're just one of us, then we have. It seems a little reductive, Jonathan. Our soul may only have one final destination, but why do you think the bad parts of you would go to heaven if your soul goes to heaven? Like, what makes you think the negative personality traits, which sort of manifest as actual personalities in your life, in the Jungian sense, why do you think those get to go to heaven if you go to heaven? Like, for instance, Jonathan, I'm going to tell you my personal belief, and again, I don't want to speak on behalf of any church or any doctrine, but my personal belief is that a good person who strives their whole life to be good, and especially one that's never given the opportunity and never heard of Jesus, they will go to heaven. Does that mean that the part of them that's jealous and spiteful gets to go with them? Absolutely not. Of course not. There must be some sort of purgation, some sort of purging, right? And to me, it would actually be nice if at the end of history, at the end of the everlasting time, the everlasting, right? That all those negative personality traits would just be burned up and thrown away like they're in a shredder. But that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that individual souls necessarily get burned up and thrown away. I understand this is not the most mainstream opinion, but I'm just offering possibilities here. So, and again, I want to give people an entrance way, a possible way to start looking into these things and come to the ultimate experience of conversion, which is personal experience. Like, again, these arguments are never going to convince you guys. Like, these are rational, logical things. That's never going to bring someone to Christ. You have to meet Christ. You have to humble yourself to the extent, say, Lord, if you're real, reveal yourself to me. That's what you have to get to. But these are just ways that you could enter into the mindset of even humbling yourself to ask that question. How could you enjoy the pleasures of heaven knowing the unrighteous are suffering forever? Well, if they're unrighteous, I mean, what? How could I enter into heaven knowing Hitler doesn't get away with it, as he clearly did, given your model? In your model, Hitler got away with it. He got to do everything he wanted, kill all the Jews, perform horrible, ridiculously satanic, demonic rites and rituals and practices, and then he just gets away with it, right? So I'm assuming you're like an atheist or agnostic or something. You don't believe in heaven and hell, okay? David, yeah, because if it's just a possibility, at least it's something you can consider. But right now you're framing this as not a possibility, right? Comic Brandon, you will never be at peace then. I'm sorry for you. Now, I'm unrighteous because I enjoy people suffering and I'm going to hell. Yeah, I enjoy that Hitler suffers. Yeah, that makes me unrighteous. That makes me unjust. Okay. Fair enough. Again, Comic Brandon, he loves to paint these little circles and go, haha, I gotcha. But then he doesn't realize what he just said. So you don't. So you toss and turn in night in your sleep because Hitler is burning in hell. I mean, what are you saying? Speaking in possibilities won't get us anywhere. Disagree. It's possible that aliens will abduct me tonight. Yes, but we're talking about possibilities plus probabilities, right? We're talking about possibilities plus you're using your logical, rational mind. And by the way, welcome back, David. Welcome back. I know we talked a long time yesterday. I hope that means you're having fun. Feel free to subscribe and everything. Okay. Yeah, God's mercy is incredible. It's vast. Yeah, absolutely. It's Christ-like to have compassion on the righteous, but you can't say, isn't that Christ-like? And also, God doesn't exist. So what are you saying? You want to be Christ-like? What are you saying, Jonathan, when you say, isn't it Christ-like to have compassion on the unrighteous? Because I know you're trying to catch me in a logical trap, but what you've done is just confess the beauty of Christ. So what do you mean by that? How do you explain unrighteousness given the fact that there's no God? Because it is Christ-like to have compassion on the unrighteous, which is why so many of us are saved, like me, for instance. I'm completely unrighteous. I'm a sinner, right? And I'll be saved. That's compassion. But is it compassion to have no justice? Like if a serial killer kidnaps and murders 20 women, should we have compassion on him and just let him go free? Should we just let him keep doing that? Right? I don't say he doesn't exist. That's a good note, David. I say I have no evidence he exists. That's a good note. Good, but that's what we're providing now. It's not exactly evidence in the way you're thinking of it, like scientific evidence, like if I boil this and that, then I'll get that. Right. Well, great, Jonathan. You're actually you're arguing you're against yourself right now. So yeah, I agree. God does take no pleasure in the death of the wicked, okay? I'm a sinner. So maybe I do, right? Maybe I find it comforting that Hitler will be punished. Maybe you don't. I mean, that seems insane to me. Um, but yeah, God's ways are not my ways. God's mind is not my mind. So it is hard for me, which is also why the problem of evil sort of gets canceled out because it's like, what kind of omniscient knowledge are you presuming that all evil can't be justified on the other side of eternity? But yeah, I'm a hypocrite. I'm a sinner. I admit that. That's why I need Jesus. That's why I need the Bible and God. And so I appreciate you giving me that scripture. That's good to think about. Even God says he takes no pleasure in the death of the wicked. He doesn't take pleasure in death. He hates death. Should we go back to the Satan argument? We didn't get to finish that. So if God creates beings and he creates agents that take action in the world and he doesn't give them free will, he changed them to the radiator, then he wouldn't love them, right? But he does love them, so he gives us all free will, including his angels, okay? And so he gave his angels free will, and one of them, Satan, freely chose to introduce evil, suffering, wickedness, and all these things into reality and necessitated the existence of hell. It's his realm to rule over and to take the wicked with him, right? Okay. What should God have done? Should he have not created Satan or not given him free will? Which one should he have done? And we get to Brandon's worldview. There is no good or evil. Well, I fundamentally disagree with that. Yeah. No, I know what you're presuming. I know what you're just saying a priori, but there is good and evil, okay? You know it, you feel it. You look at the Holocaust and you say, that's not good or evil. How do you say that? Okay, David says God should not have created Satan. So should he have created anything? Should he have created us? Should he have created anything with consciousness that can make decisions and move in the world and act with will? Yeah. So if he didn't create Satan, he could not have created us, right? Because obviously we could do the same thing on a smaller scale, right? Do you understand where you're going with this when you say he shouldn't have created Satan? He should have created heaven and nothing else. But that's what he already had. That's what he had for eternity. That's what he shared and existed in. He wanted to share it with us, though. He wanted to create a beautiful painting. Should an artist not create a painting if somebody uses it for evil, or whatever? If an artist wants to paint, should he not do it just in case he paints something bad? If he's all powerful, he could have created us and not Satan. Yeah, he could have created us and not Satan, but could he have created us and not given us free will? And then we would do the exact same thing that Satan did? And actually, do we know he could have created us without the higher order entities that sort of lead to us, that interact with us on like higher dimensions, like the angels? No, Satan was not a mistake. Satan was an agent created with free will. That's not a mistake. So to be clear, Comic Brandon, your position is that God should have created nothing if he exists. Well, it's not about heaven. We're talking about creation right now. We're talking about the material world. How are you saying what God can do? How can God make a square circle? Can God create an agent with no free will and be loving? Why are you saying God? You're saying God could have done anything. God is omnipowerful, but he's also logical and rational, right? So how does he create? He cannot create an agent and chain them to the radiator and be the loving God that he proclaims to be, that we know he is. And according to me, yes, he can create a square circle. No, he can't. I don't believe that. No, you don't understand all powerful. If you're all powerful, but you're also rational, then you can't make a square circle. How can you make that? Tell me how you can make a square circle. Imagine that in your mind. A circle that is also a square. Tell me. Tell me how you can create a being with free will. I'm sorry, tell me how you can create a being with consciousness that moves in the world and chooses to do things without free will. This is what's told to me in the Bible, and it's what makes sense, and I'm created in the image of God, and I'm rational and logical, so it makes sense that God is. Also, the universe is supremely ordered. Everything in it acts according to laws and constants and ratios, so there's absolutely no reason to believe that God would not be rational or logical. Miracles, okay, I understand. You're saying like miracles aren't rational, therefore God's not rational, right? Is that what you're saying, fundamentally? Walking on water is not a square circle. In what way is walking on water a square circle? You can imagine walking on water. You can imagine turning water into wine. You can imagine whatever other miracle, virgin birth. Like you can imagine how these things are possible. In fact, it's written down, so obviously it's imaginable. But you can't even imagine a square circle. So what are you talking about? Yes, God is allowed to surpass the laws that he sets. Like he's allowed to do those things. But how does he make impossible, like illogical things happen? Things that cancel each other out. Like walking on the water doesn't cancel out the existence of water or walking, right? But a square circle cancels out the existence of the square or the circle, right? Yes, you can imagine a whale sucking a bird off behind a Greyhound station, and just because you can't make it happen or you've never seen it happen doesn't mean God can't make it happen. Of course, God could make that happen, as ridiculous as that is, Comic Brandon. But tell me how you can even imagine a square circle. Like it's easy to imagine a whale sucking off a bird behind a Greyhound station. You already did. I'm thinking of it right now. Curse you, Brandon. So, but you haven't explained to me how he can do things that contradict each other, that counteract each other. Tell me how he does that. Keep going where, Brandon? You haven't answered the question. You have not answered the question. How does God create a being, an agent in the world that can choose to do things and that does not have free will? And in the same vein, how does he make a square circle? Just because I can't imagine something doesn't mean it's not possible. Okay, forget imagining then. What is what is up down? Right? What is up down? Things, two words that contradict each other and cancel each other out cannot exist in our material reality, right? The miracles you described, none of those things cancel each other out. Walking does not cancel out water. Virginity does not cancel out birth. Just because it doesn't happen like for you, like your mom didn't have a virgin birth, doesn't mean they're technically like logically opposed to each other. A square circle is logically opposed. Those two things are logically opposed to each other. The one cancels out the other. Agent making choices and no free will cancel each other out. They do not add up. Like, the one thing cancels out the other. So you haven't answered any of the question. Higher dimensions, answer this again. Okay, explain that. I'd like to understand how higher dimensions can answer these contradictions. Thank you, Jonathan. Sorry, I know we're getting lost in Comic Brandon's nonsense, but you can imagine God, and we do. There's like books about it, right? Big library of books, about 60 of them, called the Holy Bible. But there's not a single book or representation or even imagining of a square circle. What do you think? Okay, we can change the subject if you want about the Bible supporting slavery, as you say. But I would just point to you, what do you think about the Bible also ending slavery? What's your response to that? If you're asking why does slavery exist, then we're back to the problem of evil. And we still, because you guys like to get distracted, have not gotten to the major meat of that argument, which will happily go back to. But in what way? So the Bible talks about slavery and it talks about rules to do with your slaves and things like that, yada, yada, yada. But then we have to go back to why is there slavery, right? Because Satan fell from grace and decided to introduce evil into the world. Man decided to follow Satan into the evil. So we live in a fallen world. So tons of evil abounds. Slavery, rape, murder, genocide, all these things. Well, there's a commandment in the most fundamental commandment in the Bible is to love God and to love your neighbor, right? If you love your neighbor, do you own your neighbor? Is he your property? If you love him, we're right back to the radiator thing. So slavery is condemned in the Bible. There is the number one commandment in the Bible. A man came up to Jesus and asked him, Jesus, there's a lot of rules here. You got a lot of rules going on. I don't know which ones are true. I don't know which ones to follow. Can you just give me like 2? Can you just give me like the number one rule to follow? And Jesus said, love God and love your neighbor. So is it loving your neighbor to own them as a slave? Yeah, Brandon, I am going to ignore you because we've been talking for 5 hours in total and you're spewing nonsense. You just sort of make claims like if I spend the whole time dealing with you, we won't get into anything good. What? No, it is not. What? That's not a commandment not to own slaves? Loving your neighbor? In what sense? And let's look up those verses you gave us. So Leviticus 25:44 through 46. It can be loving. Okay, see, Brandon? Does everybody see how Brandon cancels himself out? How he says there's no such thing as good and evil, and how you can enslave people and love them? Okay, Brandon, I'm glad you support slavery. My Bible doesn't, and I don't. So, good point. You're really helping your case here. Okay. You see this? All right. Both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen that are round about you. All right, let's do this in a different version because it's kind of hard to understand. But so far, okay. Moreover, the children of the stranger that do sojourn among of them shall ye buy, and of their families that are with you, and they shall be your possession. So what is, and you shall take them as inheritance for your children. After you to inherit them for a possession, they shall be your bond forever. Over your brethren, the children of Israel, you shall not rule over another with rigor. Okay, so what is telling you that God's commanding this and not describing what's going to happen? You just said it can be loving to enslave a person, so you do support slavery, Brandon. Okay, slave. I understand. Slave. These are slaves, bondsmen, and bondsmaids. So what makes you think God commands this? Thou shalt have, shall be, ye shall buy, and not describing how evil people are going to act in the following years. And given the fact that they're evil people and will own slaves, it seems like a good thing for God to give them at least a few things to keep in mind about owning slaves, considering they're evil and they're going to do it anyway. How are there circumstances where slavery could equate to love? And I know that you can state that. All right, let's look at the context of this chapter to see what you're talking about. Speak unto the children of Israel and say unto them, when ye came into this land which I give you, then shall the land keep a Sabbath unto the Lord. Yeah. Okay, so these are commandments. But who are you to say when or how God should abolish slavery? Because he did it later in the, 1800s, around that time. So why are you saying he should have done it earlier instead of later? But if God exists infinitely, what's the difference? And if we all get to share in his glory, especially the slaves, what's the difference? And also, are you saying that you believe in the God that commanded this? Because we're still talking about if God's real or not, right? Okay, but what about the number one commandment? So, okay, are you going to cherry pick and straw man and choose parts of the Bible that fit your argument? Or are you going to take the whole Bible in context? Because what's the number one commandment? Huh? Remember? What is the number one commandment that God himself gives us? But how do you know that benefits all the people? How do you know that's what benefits the people most? Where do you get this omniscient knowledge from? Okay, I'm going to share with you another. Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. All the law. The law and the prophets, by the way, is the Torah, which we were just reading from in the Old Testament. Okay. So what are you saying here? If God explicitly says to love your neighbor as yourself, you wouldn't own yourself, you wouldn't enslave yourself, where are you getting this information that God wants there to be slaves? Where are you getting this from? God says explicitly, all the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. Yeah, I know, Brandon. I know. Takes one to know one, huh? Where are you getting this that God supports slavery when he explicitly tells you that all the law and the prophets hang on the commandment to love the Lord your God and to love your neighbor as yourself? How can you negate this comment by cherry picking other things from the Old Testament, which hang on these two commandments? And is it really your opinion that to be a Christian you have to support slavery? Is that really your opinion? So you agree there's a God, but you think that he wants you to be a slave, like a slave master. That's where I disagree. Love is not a subjective feeling. Love is an objective truth in the universe. Love is identical. Well, maybe I'm using that word wrong. I hate using the word identical. Love is identified with God, which is infinite and objective. So I disagree that love is a subjective feeling, Brandon. Oh, fuck. Okay, I'm back. Where are you guys getting this, that God supports slavery? Want to talk about something else, or are you still on the slavery thing? Lots of slavery references in what link? The Bible? Yeah, there's references to slavery. It's a historical text. Slavery has existed for all of history until very recently. And wait a second, why was it abolished? Oh, yeah, Christian abolitionists who argued based on the Bible and the fact that all man is created in the image of God, like in our Constitution. Yeah, exactly, Blake. Love is not subjective. Yep, and Alex. I mean, love has a subjective quality, I suppose. Like, you subjectively sort of experience your love, but it either exists or it doesn't, right? It's either objective or it doesn't exist at all. Okay, so David, great. Thank you. Giving a great verse. Slaves are instructed to obey their masters, but masters are also told to treat them fairly. So why would masters be told to treat them fairly? No, the New Testament does not explicitly call for its abolition. Otherwise, it never would have been accepted by anybody. Because, as you said, that was deeply ingrained in Greco Roman society. So, how could they have called for something that everyone would have rejected wholesale? Instead, God's glory is so great and his text is so deep and interweaving and fascinating that he can instill seeds of truth that grow into a giant mustard tree of righteousness and glory, which is exactly what happened in the 17 and 1800s when slavery was finally abolished based on arguments presented by the Bible. It's so funny that you're like, the Bible supports slavery when it's the only reason there's no slavery. So what are you talking about? Non-Israelite slaves could be kept permanently. Well, until they died, right? We're talking about God here. Is God a material being? He exists in time? His ways are only happen on a single lifetime? No, of course not. So they can't be kept permanently. They can only be kept till they die. David, if you're going to read the Bible and you're going to expect it to tell you everything in plain English and exactly how you want to hear it, otherwise you don't believe it, and you don't even want to read the context or the subtext or think about the historical impact or anything that happens following from the Bible, then yeah, you're not going to find anything. You're definitely not going to find that slavery, there's not going to be a English statement in the Bible, a sentence that says, you should all abolish slavery. There's barely anything political like that in the Bible. Like, Jesus doesn't say, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good example. Okay, that's a good question. Let's just because I haven't studied up on this before this chat, let me ask ChatGPT, and this isn't gonna again, ChatGPT is not the end all be all. It doesn't give the right answers, but it's just gonna help us see. Yeah, it is people's interpretation. You're allowed to interpret the Holy Book. You're allowed to interpret the Bible. That's what's great about it. You're allowed to ask it questions and find out what the real truth is. Okay. Well, clear to you, but you don't even believe them. So how clear are they? Okay, so thou shalt not own people as property. So what? So you get to absolutely just discard the most important commandment that you should love your neighbor, right? How about thou shalt love your neighbor as thyself? That's the commandment. And if you can't read into that and see what that means, then I can't really help you, David. I'm sorry. If you can't see that loving your neighbor as yourself is to not own them, is to not enslave them, no, you can interpret it faithfully and righteously. Like if you interpret loving your neighbor as yourself like, oh, then I should be able to like, I don't know, be some sort of like sex crazed dominatrix. I'm just loving everybody, baby. That's obviously a false interpretation. You have to use your conscience and your like they'll really rely on the Holy Spirit within you to guide you to correct interpretations. But obviously the interpretation of love your neighbor as yourself is to not own people, because you would not own yourself, would you? Would you put chattels on yourself? Would you make yourself a slave? Answer that question, and then we can keep going. What are the biblical roots of the abolitionist movement in the West? Imago Dei, the image of God, Genesis 1:27. That's the most basic one. That one makes the sense. Yeah, so the Bible acknowledges historical fact and where people are at and their wickedness and their evilness. It doesn't say treat your slaves fairly and then you're a good person. It just says you have slaves, treat them fairly, right? But doesn't it also say to love your neighbor as yourself as a commandment, as a direct commandment? So the implication is obviously that you would not have slaves, but that if you did have slaves, you would treat them fairly, right? No, you can't own people if you treat them fairly. The implication is that you should not have slaves, but if you do have slaves, which a lot of people did, very ingrained, then you will treat them fairly. Okay? This is another one, the one that I've been talking about, which I like a lot. Do to others as you would have them do unto you. Obviously, God does not support the Egyptian slavery of the Israelites. You're probably not going to like that one. Love your neighbor as yourself. This is a good one too. Galatians 3:28. You ready? Well, of course it allows slaves. It allows for all the evils of people. People are evil. They're sinful. So of course they're going to, like I said, God doesn't chain you to the radiator and force you to love him. That would not be love. That's not possible. So of course, if your sinful heart wants to do horrible things, God is not going to chain you to the radiator. We're going back and back and back on this. And also, yes, that's a good point by Blake here. Ancient slavery looks a lot different than what you're thinking of as slavery. I believe I remember that you could only be a slave in certain contexts for like 7 years at a time, and then you would get paid. So like it was more like indentured servitude. Doesn't make it right? Okay, it doesn't make it right, but it's not exactly what you're thinking of. Why have the commandments? What do you mean? To keep people in line, obviously, to make them not wicked, to make them not as evil. Yeah, thanks, Blake. We might need a couple more neckbeards to sub out. I was having a good conversation with Jonathan. I'm not sure if he left. Probably did. But he decided to bow out. I'm not sure where he's at. Oh yeah. Oh, if you don't know Brandon Blake, you're gonna get used to him. You're gonna see what Brandon's all about very soon. Okay. All right. Jesus' mission to the oppressed. The entire Gospel of Luke came to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and set the oppressed free. I mean, look, there's endless examples here. What are you? Is it really your position that God supports slavery when he obviously doesn't? Any answer to that, David or Brandon? I didn't mean to call you neckbeards. Brandon is a neckbeard. David is a seeker. David is a fair guy. He's concerned about these things, but we're trying to teach him. This is actually a good time for me to try to figure out the Discord. It is my position that God is not probable, certainly, or possibly, most likely. That makes no sense. Take a grammar class. Okay. No, the Bible doesn't specifically condemn slavery. The Bible does specifically condemn other things through commandment. It does specifically condemn slavery. Do you want me to go back and show you? What is all this? Imago Dei. Exodus and the deliverance of Israel. The golden rule. Love your neighbor. What are you talking about here, bro? What are you talking about? Okay, so you are God. Is that what you're saying? You would make better commandments? Oh my Lord. David, if you don't even believe in God to create the commandments, why do you get to create the commandments? And if you can't even see that the commandment to love your neighbor as yourself is an explicit denial of slavery, then you definitely are not fit to make commandments yourself. Otherwise, what? Are you going to make a commandment for every single moral action everyone ever takes ever? There's going to be like 1 trillion commandments. What's going on? A slave is your neighbor. By love your neighbor as yourself, it means all people. It means your brother. It means the people that are created in the image of God, which is all people. Okay? A slave is your neighbor. And also by definition, especially in the ancient world, you were enslaving the people that lived next to you that you conquered. That's like, or that sold themselves into your slavery. Okay, let me figure out this Discord thing. Okay. Oh, okay. Wait, this might be it. Maybe that's not it. Oh, I'll have to look this up in between streams. Okay. Yeah, make a sandwich, David. Enjoy that. It is my position that God certainly is not probable and probably not possible. Okay, Brandon, just out of curiosity, why do you believe God is not probable? Given all the arguments over the last 7 hours that I've spent debating you, what argument do you have that God is not probable? David needs a slave or a wife, apparently. Yeah, Blake is making a socialist comment. Fun. That's funny. Yeah, but it's a good point. It's a good illustration of the how are you going to make a commandment for every single thing which could possibly be perceived as wrong when you could just make a commandment that's way simpler and encompasses everything that is wrong. The golden rule. That's why we call it the golden rule, that even atheists and agnostics, people that hate God, follow. Right? Isn't that way easier than making a commandment for every single possible moral bad? Okay, that's a circle, Brandon. If something is probable, it has to happen, but you don't think it happened, so it can't be probable. What do you say to people who think it happened? Oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong. Sorry. What do you say? Yeah, right. Exactly. Brandon, look up the definition of a priori. Here, I'll type it out for you. That's what all of your arguments are. Yeah, good question, Alex. Yeah, we do have data. Okay, do you want me to go through that stuff again? We can go through it. We got the cause. Which one do you want? The cosmological argument? You want the fine-tuning argument, which is extra. Let's do that because it's really data-driven. It's actually really obvious and data-driven. Okay. The odds of winning the Mega Millions jackpot are 1 in 300 million. Okay? 1 in 300 million. Data. Statistic. You follow me, Brandon? Brandon, focus. Focus, Brandon. I know it's hard. Do you see this data on my screen right now? The odds of winning the Mega Millions jackpot are 1 in 300 million. Do you see that, Brandon? I'm not going to keep going until you show me that you can see that there's data. I'm not doing this circle with you, Brandon. It's really frustrating. You're one of my favorite people. Okay, finally. You see that there's data. Okay. So here's some more data. Yeah, it's more like, it's less likely that you win the lottery than getting struck by lightning. 1 in 1.2 million. Become a billionaire. 1 in 578,000, right? Attacked by a shark. 1 in 4 million. Gotcha. Okay. So this is 3 times 10 to the 9. 1 in 3 times 10 to the 9. That's right. People win the Mega Millions. Exactly. And I'm about to show you, Brandon. I'm about to show you that not only did we win the Mega Millions by existing, we won something far, far, far more improbable than that. That's where this is going. So stick with me. I want to do this slowly because I know it's hard for you. I want to do it so you can follow and you can see the chain of reasoning. Okay. The estimated number of atoms in the universe are 10 to the 80. Can you see that? Is that a data set? Is that a point of data? That the estimated number of atoms in the universe is 10, or another way of saying it is 1 times 10 to the 80th power. Do you see that? I'm not going forward, Brandon, until I see that you see it. I know we're on a... Yeah, you've done the math. Great. Okay, so you see the math. Now, according to Sir Roger Penrose, not a Christian, if I understand correctly, an actual scientist, physicist, the probability of the universe beginning in a low entropy state, which allowed for the formation of galaxy stars and life, is incredibly small. He estimated this probability as, listen to this, 1 over 10 to the 10 to the 123rd power. 100. Forget the beginning thing, Blake. Brandon. We'll get into that. We'll get into that if you want. I can explain to you why there must be a beginning of the universe. There must be, philosophically and logically. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see this. I'm going to zoom in. Where am I going to zoom in from? How am I going to zoom in? Okay. You see this number, Brandon? Do you see this number? Tell me you see this number and tell me you understand how. Remember, Brandon, focus, Brandon, focus. Brandon, over here, he's like a dog. You have to or a cat, you have to shake your keys to get him to. Okay, do you see this number, Brandon? 10 to the 10, and it's saying 10 to the negative 10 because it's a probability, so it's 1 over 10 to the 10 to the 123. So the exponent has 10 to the 123 zeros behind it. That's the exponent. Do you understand how big that number is, Brandon? Do you understand how impossible anything that has that probability value is? Remember, the odds of you winning the lottery are 10 to the negative 9. The Mega Millions jackpot. You're never going to win that in your life. It's 10 to the negative 9. This is 10 to the negative 10 to the 123rd power. Huge number. Huge number. Unfathomably. No. Okay. Brandon, I'm using impossible in the sense of so improbably small that it basically can't happen. You're right, it's not impossible because it happened, right? So why is it not impossible? This something with this probability. Oh, I hate. Now you all know my pain, at least. I've been dealing with Brandon for 2 days now. It's crazy. He just does this circular logic. He just does this circular reasoning. God's not impossible because God's not impossible. I mean, God's not possible because God's not possible. No. I'm Brandon. I just go around and around and around. I swear to God, I hope you're like 14. Yeah. The argument stemming from these numbers. Why, need why? I'm just asking you what. You don't need a why. Why is very hard to answer, Brandon. You're not going to be able to answer a why because you don't believe in metaphysics. You don't even believe in morals. Why don't you? Why? Okay, let's do this, Brandon. How do you think it all started? What do you think explains this impossibly small probability? How do you think a universe can win the lottery like this? And again, yeah, does anything ever appear out of nothing, Brandon? Does anything ever appear from nothing? Does nothing beget nothing, or does something beget something? Okay, while you think about that, Brandon, I'm going to put this number back on the screen. You think about how, on your worldview, you can possibly explain that number. Get anywhere yet, Brandon? My argument, me, not the straw man you invented, the universe is. There's no need for a start, a cause, a beginning, or a why. So has it been that way infinitely? Has it always been that way? No one's using God of the Gaps, David. No one's using that. Brandon, you have to stop with this show me nothing. No one's ever said that. We can show you a beginning. Do you want to see a beginning? Okay. Let's go to. I don't have it here. All right. Do you want to understand why there must be a beginning, Brandon, or are you just trolling? Like, do you not actually care about the answer? Like, if I tell you something that's logical and makes sense, are you gonna accept it, or are you gonna deny it and say it's not real because I don't believe it's real? Yeah, because your thing requires that there's nothing, not mine. I don't need to show you that. You need to show me that there's nothing. You need to show me nothing. That's why your position is ridiculous and mine makes sense, right? Yes. Okay, we'll show you the beginning. This is good. This is good. All right, everyone calm down. Let's start this. Does every effect have a cause? Do you have a cause? Does everything that begins to exist have some reason for its existing? Some cause that came before it? Yes, I'm doing it. Answer my questions. We'll build a logical argument. Does everything that begins to exist have a cause? Stick with me, Brandon. Is there a causal chain? Were you born from your father and your father born from. Yeah, okay. David answered. I'm not convinced David's following. He's a little slow sometimes. Okay. So what happens when you trace the causal chain all the way back? What's the farthest back you can go in the chain of causes that led to you standing right here, right on the earth? What's the first cause? Or just tell me how far back you can go in your mind, in your imagination. I can go back to my dad. I can go back to my grandfather. I can go back to the moment when humans first evolved or were created or whatever. I can go back to the beginning of the earth. I can go back to the beginning of the solar system. What do you mean no cause necessary? So, wait, so effects don't need to have a cause? Effects can just happen? Wait, you got to explain that, Brandon. That makes no sense. No cause necessary for an effect? So, like a ball can just pop into existence? Like a human, a universe can just pop into existence out of nothing? See what you're saying? If you say no cause necessary, then you believe in nothing creating something. Okay, Big Bang. Boom. All right, that's a good place to stop the chain of cause and effect. All right, so what caused the Big Bang? Brandon, you just refuted yourself. If you say I'm correct, then you just said that something comes from nothing. So you showed yourself nothing. Are you happy now? Are you happy with your ridiculous position that makes no sense? Right, we don't know. But what are the possible causes? A universe can exist without a cause, possibly, as it exists currently. Demonstrably. Okay, look at this thing that he sneaks in. As it exists currently. So nothing that you can think of, or even if you can't even imagine something that can pop into existence without a cause, how are you just stating with certainty that that's how the universe happened? Yeah, I understand the delay. There needs zero cause. So what does that look like if something happens with no cause? Where did it come from, Brandon? The point of this is to show you that there is absolutely no way. It's actually to show Brandon that there was a beginning of the universe. But it's also to trace the causal chain back so you can start to think about what are the possible explanations for the impossible universe that we live in? What are the possible explanations? I'm trying to get to what those few theories are, right? Because I'm saying the most probable, the strongest theory is that God exists, a creator who created the universe. But you haven't given me any alternate theory. So I'm just going to assume mine one is right. I'm going to assume mine is correct if it's the only one you can even imagine. No, it doesn't prove, it does imply a God did it, but it doesn't prove a God did it. All right, forget impossible. What is an alternate theory to the fact that there's an intelligent creator? What is your alternate theory? That nothing created it? That it just popped into existence with no cause? That's ludicrous. You already said that's ludicrous. What is your alternative explanation? I've given you one. I've spent a long time explaining it. Okay, so you believe in a beginning. All right, multiverse theory. All right, we're getting somewhere with David here. Brandon, we already chased the causal chain all the way back. Even rewinding cosmic inflation does not equate to zero. No, it doesn't. It equates to all of the atoms and particles in the universe condensed into a single point, right? So it's like equal to one or something, right? That would be the beginning. Duh. Especially if time, space, and matter are in that single point. That's the beginning of those things. Is it not, Brandon? Tell me that's not the beginning. I don't presuppose anything. There are a few theories as to the beginning, none that contain God. Right, and exactly. There are a few theories, and also the God theory. And I'm about to prove to you that the other theories are nonsensical. They don't make sense. They're not logical. They can't happen in reality. Exactly. Yeah. Where did that single point come from? What was the point's prior state? What's the cause of the single point under cosmic inflation? You haven't answered anything. See, like cosmic inflation is the same thing as saying there is a causal chain that goes back to the beginning where all these things started. So cosmic inflation isn't an answer to the question. The multiverse theory seems like an answer to the question, but then it implies that there are an infinite set of universes or matter or atoms. But you can't have an infinite set of anything, can you? As we talked about yesterday. But I can explain that again if you guys want. Brandon, I'm not the one that says there's zero. You are. Okay. I'm talking about Forte. And welcome to the chat, Forte. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're enjoying. Hope you'll have fun here. I'm getting a little frustrated because Brandon really annoys me. He keeps doing this circular logic and he's a little rude. So that's why I'm getting frustrated. But this is a loving and supporting chat. We're going to have fun and try to figure this out. Okay, but you're saying a virgin birth can't happen in reality. Or what are you saying? But neither can a virgin birth happen in reality. So what's the point you're about to make even meaningful? But so you're saying a virgin birth can't happen in reality, but the virgin birth of the universe can happen. Where are you getting that from? Okay, I'm about to rip you apart, David. I'm sorry. I know you're saying time itself began with the Big Bang, meaning asking what happened before may be meaningless. It's not meaningless. Just because there's no time doesn't mean there's not a cause. Because if time ever began to exist at any point, obviously something caused it, and obviously that something wasn't in time, because time hadn't been created yet. So causation does not rely on a time relationship. I'm sorry. Dude, all one. Yeah, Brandon, you're done. Okay, Forte will do the voice call. All right. Um, yeah. And so, David, what we're doing with these theories is we're narrowing the theories down to the ones that are most probable, and the two that you've given me that are not God are improbable. They don't make sense. They're not logical. So why would you believe those over something that's logical? You have a question. What are the attributes of all the man-made gods? Uh, all of the, like, what is a common attribute? You want me to list every attribute of every god? That could take me 10 years to do. Not if I even knew all that, which I don't. Forte, I'd love to get you in this chat, and that is something that is definitely going to happen. Um, well, do you want to do voice or do you want to be on video? If you just want to do voice, we can do it. Right now, I'm still figuring out how I can record Discord and my OBS at the same time. But that's the Discord link. You join that, and we can talk about it in person. That'd be way better. I'm not arguing with anybody, David. I'm using philosophy to understand if there's a beginning of the universe or not, and if there is, what could possibly have preceded the beginning of the universe? What are the possible options? And what are the probabilities assigned to those options? And if something is illogical and contradictory and makes no sense, like an infinite multiverse, hey, welcome, brother. Welcome, Forte. How you doing, my friend?
Hello?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, what's up, brother? Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the chat. How you doing?
Good. How about you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. We're having a good time over here. We're getting into some deep sort of philosophical, theological, scientific territory here. I wish I could show you. Well, maybe I can. Hold on. Wait, can you see my face on the Discord?
Yes.
Okay, cool. We're all good then. We're all good. All right. So, what you got? You got a question? You got a response? Do you want to just talk about something? You bring up whatever you want.
Yeah, I was just so that question I had the man-made gods, right?
Yeah, sure, sure,
Um I feel like there's a number of attributes that are pretty similar in them. Like
sure.
they're all similarly not here. They're all similarly, they have magical powers of some degree, right?
Okay, sure,
Um and they all kind of communicated to us through special translators or
sure. Yeah,
prophets.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Which makes
Um
sense. Which is what they would have to do probably if they were so different and special from us that they, you know, aren't like us. They would probably use some sort of translator, right? Like if I went to Germany, I'd use a German translator.
Yeah, yeah, but those people they're just people though.
Which people? Sorry.
Like the translators or the prophet, they're just like regular
Gotcha.
dudes.
Gotcha. But does that mean that the message they got is their personal message per se? I mean, I know it could be, obviously. It definitely could be, but does that mean it definitely is?
Well, I mean, what would let's step into the mind of God for a second. I'm
Sure.
just
Sure.
what would be my logic in selecting Steve to tell the rest of the people about my existence, opposed to telling all of the people? Like the God provided us with a sun to look at, right?
Yes,
With
right.
the moon to look at. We can
Right.
all view that.
Yeah.
But essentially what's being said is he's only providing the sun to Steve to tell us about.
Okay. Well, he's not because he's also providing the sun and the moon and Steve, right? So you can look at all the things and like Steve is just added on to the other reasons or the other advocates, you might say, for God, right?
Yeah, I'm just curious. Like, it seems like all the religions kind of do this.
Yeah, I think
Um,
that's true. Is your do you have a or yeah, sorry, keep going.
so like if we can say like as a Christian or as someone of Islam, we can say look at all these other religions that are man-made and false, right?
Mm-hmm.
But all their attributes are exactly like ours.
Yep, yep.
So why would the God of the universe select the exact same ways of communicating himself
Mm-hmm.
as all the other fake gods?
I see. Okay. This is what my answer to you is going to be. You ready? If God is real and he created the universe and he instilled his nature and his qualities and his attributes like you pointed out before with the sun and the moon and nature and within the human heart, then you're going to be able to find the attributes of God and his nature all over the place. Now the question is how much of it are you going to be able to get? Like if I just sit in my front yard and stare at the sun all day, I'm not going to understand much about the nature of the universe, am I? I might understand something. Might understand, there's light. Light is good and darkness is bad or something like that. You might understand like very basic points. So, if God's truth is written on all of our hearts, that doesn't mean you're going to like you said with the prophet, that doesn't mean you're going to translate that truth the exact same way or as accurately between different cultures. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if God is real, you would expect to see part of his attributes in all the cultures of the world because it's written in nature and it's written on our hearts. Does that answer the question? Or did I miss something?
Yeah, but that would then essentially say that there is no correct God, that there's just this one,
No, if there was
like,
one correct
diffused.
God, you would expect all the incorrectness to come from human misinterpretation.
So
Like it's
God
my belief
created
that
a
there's one
situation.
God who's misinterpreted by the whole world, by, the people that don't interpret him correctly.
So why would God intentionally create a situation for us to sift through the pile of gods who have
Hmm.
been incorrectly interpreted?
Well, why wouldn't he? What else would there be to do, right? Why would he create anything if. So what you're saying is, oh, God should have just told us exactly. He should have told us everything. There should be no questions, no obfuscation. There should be no distance between me and God. But if there was no distance between me and God, no questions to ask, well, then we're already in heaven, aren't we? Isn't everything already happening in heaven?
That makes sense. That makes sense. I guess I'd ask then, if it's his intention for us, for him to make himself known to us, why the camouflage, the obfuscation, the hiddenness, the mystery, the digging and searching, if it is in fact his intention,
Uh huh.
and this is a test, and if we fail the test, and we do not believe in the correct God of which he has purposely laid a booby trap, apparently, we go to hell forever.
I understand. I understand. I think that hell doctrine is a little too fundamentalist. So it's interesting for you to take like a fundamentalist doctrine of hell when you're arguing against God to begin with. But anyway, okay. So why would God obfuscate himself, hide himself? Why would he create this game for us to play and to seek him? Because if there was no game to play, then we've already found him, right? If there was no seeking to be done, he's already been found. So it's the same question as before. Why would he create every That's what heaven is. Why create anything if there's no game to play? No seeking to do.
Mm. So if the people that get it correct, they go to heaven,
Mm-hmm.
and the people that, let's say hell doesn't exist,
Yeah.
the people that don't get it correct don't go to heaven.
Yeah, and I guess that would be hell, right? If you don't go to heaven and you don't go anywhere for eternity or whatever. So I don't think we can avoid hell as a possibility. But my personal belief, and I don't want to be heretical. I don't want to speak on behalf of any specific church, but my personal belief is that far fewer people go to hell than we would expect, if anybody. Okay, so what the Catholic Church officially endorses, which I'm not a Catholic per se, maybe I'll become one, I don't know, but what they officially endorse is that we pray and hope for the salvation of all people, and that through God and His mercy, if it's His ways, again, I don't know His mind, I don't know His will, I don't know His ways, but if it's His will, He could make that happen. So I have a hope, I have a prayer and a faith that all people could be saved, and so, or at least like a lot more than we commonly presume. So like if I were to say one person's in hell, it's probably Hitler, right? Someone like that. I'm okay with Hitler being in hell. That's okay with me. I think the uncontacted tribe, or even the righteous or good agnostic or even atheist, or especially like I don't know, Buddhist, Hindu, Christian, Muslim, is Jew, anybody. I think they can easily be saved by God's mercy, even if they don't make this. I mean, again, it's like this is going to sound so heretical. And so maybe I'll just even like walk this back next year when I learn the real truth. But my view right now is that it's possible for a lot more people to be saved than the fundamentalist view that we're used to arguing against. Do you understand what I'm saying here?
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep, I do. Yep. And depending on who you talk to, there's different answers to this.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, and then
Again,
it
it
kind
makes
of,
me a bad Catholic if that's what I were, but thankfully right now I'm not a Catholic. So I'm still figuring out exactly which church I need to belong to worship and glorify God to the highest extent. And I don't want to say anything heretical against any of those specific churches. So I'm not a universalist. I don't think it's like everybody gets saved. That's the end of the story. But I hope and I pray for the salvation of all people. And I see that as a reasonable possibility. Do you understand the distinction?
yeah, yeah. And then it comes in, wanders into the land of, well, why do we need to hear about God to begin with? If there's people that are in Africa remotely there, that have never heard, that are going to be judged, by their heart or their actions or whatever. Like, what would be the benefit of hearing the word of God if in fact you do
If
have
in
a
fact,
potential chance? Yeah.
yeah, well, I mean, that would just be about making your life on earth better. right? So if you learn the truth now, here, and you get to act it out and spread that truth, like, it's my view that's okay. So imagine there is some objective truth, like the truth of God or his nature or something like that, and the way that his instruction makes your life better. Um, it would just be better to live the rest of your life in that light, in that truth, to walk in that light rather than walk in that darkness, right? So, like, it's really just the question of, okay, maybe these people in Africa can be saved, these uncontacted tribes or normal people or whatever it is. But why wouldn't we send them some aid, make their lives easier, make their walk easier, make their life easier? It's
Mm.
not about their ultimate salvation, but it's about the right now of it. Like, let's get everybody we can into the church so that they can all be happy, be better, be prosperous.
You know, I can agree with that. I can
Yeah.
agree with that um, in a stance of non-belief.
Okay.
I would argue that the church assists individuals with living life
Mm-hmm.
and does
Mm-hmm.
make life better.
Mm-hmm.
I can agree to that.
Okay. Cool.
Now,
Great.
now hearing the word of God though, just for the reason of, well, they need to become saved, and then, somehow go into heaven as a result. Like, what if I hear the word of God as a rural African tribesman, and then I say,
Sure.
you know what, that doesn't make sense. I don't believe that.
You reject it.
Now,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, now what? Now where am I at? Am I now in the realm of
Mm-hmm.
going to hell as a result,
Well,
or
it's a case by case, right? Basis, right? So if the word of God that you heard was a missionary coming and then, like, burning down your tribe and being like, you're a Belgian Christian now, and if you don't, you're going to hell, and you're like, hell no, dude, I don't believe that. That sucks. I'm out. No, I don't think that person's going to go to hell because they didn't ever receive the real word of Christ, the message of love, acceptance, loving God, and loving your neighbor as yourself. But if you do hear the real word of Christ, a true mission statement that you are commanded to love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, and your strength, and that you're commanded to love your neighbor as yourself, and you reject that, well, I don't know what to say for you because that's a pretty simple thing that I think you want to do that. I mean, forget the God part if you're an atheist or whatever, agnostic, I don't know, but if you don't even want to love your neighbor as yourself, then what are we talking about here? That would be an evil person, wouldn't it?
yeah, golden rule.
Golden rule, right? Which I
Now,
believe is written on all of our hearts for us to know. So if you deny that which is written most fundamentally on your heart, well, that sounds pretty hellish to me. That'd make your life on earth pretty hellish. What happens after you die? I can't claim to know per se, but
yeah, yeah. Do you ever think about like the geographical question, like
mm-hmm.
we believe what we believe purely as a result of time
Yep.
and geography.
Yeah, yeah, I've thought about that. What part of that do you have a question about? Like, is it the uncomfortability? Because I feel like we kind of answered that, right? Like, um, well, what part do you have
Well,
a
every
problem with? Yeah.
well, everybody on Earth right now
Mm-hmm.
is in the good fortune of having currently the correct religion. So no matter
Oh,
what
right.
religion
Yeah.
you have the correct one. And
Uh,
so if I'd have been here 500 years ago, I'm in Colorado. If I'd have been
right.
here 500
Gotcha.
years ago, I'd have been worshiping the river
The
god
river.
down
Yeah.
the street, you know?
Totally. 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 Yeah, I mean it's really the same question as the uncontacted tribe thing, just dealing with time now instead of location. So, I believe those people can be saved, certainly, especially if they follow the two command. And like, if you, I believe a lot of the Native American tribes, just to get specific, because it's kind of interesting. It's like they believe in it is a pagan tradition. They believe in the river god and the spirit and the wind and all these things, right? But they also have their father sky, and they have those attributes which you would expect to find on everyone's heart if the one true God is real, right? And so I think those people can easily follow. I think those people can easily be saved and can easily follow sort of the golden rule, as you put it. The which, and if you're not clear, in the New Testament, a man asked Jesus, "Hey, man, this is all too complicated, man. I don't know. I can't follow these laws and rules. I can only keep like two things in my head at once. What are the two most important? What's the one commandment I need to follow? Love the Lord your God with all your heart and your mind and your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself." So if they follow that and they're in Colorado 500 years ago, I don't see why that's a problem. I don't see why they wouldn't be saved. We're told that Jesus goes into hell and empties hell for the people that have already died before he even came. Like God is merciful and understands your he can understand a nuanced situation. He's not like remember Dolores Umbridge from Harry Potter? He's not like that. He's not
Uh,
criminally like legalistic, you know what I mean?
yeah. So it seems almost like what we're saying is religions are beneficial for us.
Yeah.
They improve our lives.
Yeah.
And also it kind of seems to be potentially the case um, that we select a religion, and then after we have selected it, we go about rationalizing it as the true and correct religion um, to gain the benefit from it, essentially.
I think that's
But
one way to do it for sure.
but I also
Yeah.
I also think also at the same time that a lot of these benefits can be had by external religions that do not have deities, like the Chinese ones. Or,
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a question of how much benefit you're going to get. Like, what's the maximum amount of benefit you can derive? And are certain religions, do they have. So when I was an agnostic, I used to believe this that there was one sort of unknowable jewel of truth, and each religion was just like a facet of the jewel, like one corner of a brilliant diamond, right? But nobody had the full diamond within them, right? And to an extent, I still sort of believe that. But then it became obvious to me, it's like, well, some of the facets are going to be bigger than others. Like some of the religions are obviously more wrong than the other religions. So, for instance,
yeah,
Scientology is obviously more wrong. It's going to lead to a more hellish life than like Buddhism or whatever, you know? So you can compare the religion. There's validity and purpose and reason to compare the religions and find out which one offers you the most. And it would be my argument that
yeah.
Christianity obviously offers you the most in terms of what it does for your life and for your death.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
like we go about protecting these benefits that we receive
Mm-hmm.
in our rationalization of them,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe unconscious.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I think we do want to protect, and sometimes I think we might protect the benefits of one religion to our own detriment, right? Like if you're obsessed with or not obsessed, but if it's your view that like, okay, the ultimate truth of reality is that emptiness is form and form is emptiness. Well, then you might deny a lot of sort of material goods or things that have form that might be beneficial to you. You might not. You might walk the middle way perfectly and not worry about that and not have to worry about going too far. But I think oftentimes we do like sort of protect. What is it? What is it? There's got to be some like saying or something. I don't know if it's from the Bible or something else, but uh, I can't remember. But we become hyper focused on the things that are good for us when there might be greater goods for us if we allow those things to be shed and die off or even integrated into some new perspective.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you, brother. Anything else? What do you identify as? Are you agnostic or atheist or do you have a religion that you ascribe to?
Yeah.
Or
I was raised evangelical,
okay,
and
gotcha,
then I
gotcha,
recently became agnostic. And
gotcha.
I was like newer, what is it? What's the word for like the Earth is only like 4,000 years old?
Oh, a new Earth creationist.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, that's intense,
So
man. You grew up. You said you're from Colorado, so okay. That must have been intense. That is a hard thing to defend, and it's actually somewhat indefensible. So I understand why you would leave that. I do. I really do.
yeah, and it seems like depending on what you believe, whatever faith or you have to get in like these unsolicited fistfights with other ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Like Earth creationist has to fight dinosaurs, they have to fight
Right.
evolution, they have
Right.
to fight
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
God absolutely created everything, so they have to get in all these fights that they never asked to
Exactly.
be in. Same thing, like I'll talk to like a flat. I'm not disparaging creation.
Sure.
But I see the same thing in flat earthers. They'll be
Yep.
like, well, satellites don't exist, outer space
Yep.
doesn't exist,
Yep.
gravity doesn't exist. Otherwise, the Earth couldn't be flat.
Right, exactly. Right. That's what I guess that's what I was talking about earlier, about clinging to those few things that just like blind you to the rest. That's interesting. I think yeah, it's my aspiration, my goal to have a fully fledged like spiritual worldview, religious worldview that incorporates all the truth, or like as most truth as humanly possible, into that one framework. So yeah, if I have to at any point say like, oh, dinosaurs don't exist, that's not really gonna work for me or anybody. Like that's not gonna convince anybody, and
Right.
that's not gonna work for me because I don't. That's not rational to me. That's not logical to me. So that's why my Christianity can't be like that evangelical sort of creationist, literal. Another way of putting it is literalist. Like so, it's important to understand when you're reading the Bible that it's a library. It's not a single book. It's a collection of many many books written over thousands of years, right? And they're all different genres. So if you're reading the Psalms, which are poems, like basically love songs, love poems to God and to creation and nature, and you're like, this is literal. Well, it makes no sense. Then none of them make any sense. So, or
Yeah.
even if you're reading the creation story and saying this is the literal scientific explanation of how the earth was created, well, that doesn't make any sense. So you're allowed to read the Bible in other traditions, in Catholicism, or especially in Orthodox, and in mystical Christian traditions, that with like nuance and with understanding of the different genres and with sort of an interpretive lens. You have to have the right one. Like the tradition is important. Like you don't want to just go off on yourself and create your own religion out of this thing. You want to like have some sort of like logical pathway of succession so that you're assured that what you're interpreting is at least a possible interpretation. But then once you're in the realm of possible interpretations, then it's like, well, your heart knows which one is the most true, the most right, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for talking with me. I
Hey,
gotta
thank you, brother.
head
Thank you
out.
for, you're
But
the first guy that's had the courage to come in here and have a conversation. So I appreciate that.
yeah, for sure.
Hey,
Maybe we'll talk
God
again
bless you, my
sometime.
friend. God bless you.
You
Have a good
too.
one.
Have a good one.
See ya. See you guys. See how easy it is. What did you say, comic Brandon? He was gonna wreck me. I think we had a very respectful and reasonable chat where nobody said anything that didn't make sense, huh? Is that fair? All right. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Anything? Let's see what you said quickly in the chat. I might wrap it up pretty soon, but let's see what you guys are talking about. Forte is way out of your league, bucko. Dude, you know, you're born in that culture. Yep. It's like good cop, sad cop. Yeah, you are the heel, Brandon. You really are. Okay. All right, I can't read all this. Can a metal container be empty? If you suck off the... Oh, sorry. Not if you suck off. If you suck all of the air out, what do you have? Nothing. You have a vacuum. Right. Space. Respect is a top-down message. So you think there should be no... So far, all right, okay, as a wrap-up, as a summation of the stream, great stream, by the way. Thank you, everybody, for joining and approaching. And I'm happy you get evolution. Of course, David, I'm not... I told you. I don't know how many times I have to tell you. I'm not a creationist. I'm not a fundamentalist. I'm not a literalist. Maybe I didn't. If I didn't tell you that, I apologize. But yes, I believe in the things that are true. That's why I believe in God. That's what we're talking about. I believe in everything that is true. Okay? Not everything I believe is true. I'm not going to say that. I don't have perfect knowledge. But if I'm convinced that something is true, I'm going to believe in it. I've been convinced that God is true, so I believe in it. I've been convinced that evolution is true, so I believe in it. Okay? But let's sum up what Brandon believes. Let's see what Brandon believes to be true. There is no morality. There is no good or evil. He believes that the universe has no cause. The universe has no cause. It just exists. It just is. He believes that respect is a top-down message meant to control dissent. That's like a weird socialist one. I don't know where you got that, Brandon. That you shouldn't have respect because it's like some sort of manipulation tactic from the top. Um, so Noah's Ark. Okay, another day perhaps. Well, Noah's Ark is interesting because we have a lot of flood traditions from around the world and a lot of evidence of waters being very high. And so I'm not sure exactly where I stand on how exactly Noah's Ark went down, but it is at least possible that that story is a literal, or not a literal, but a historical representation. You know, mixed with metaphor and poetry and all the things that the Bible always does. But I'm not sure how you can be sure that that the flood did not happen. Um, but yeah, no, yeah. Well, if morality is just subjective, then it doesn't exist. Then there's no objective morality. If it's just subjective, then if it's my subjective opinion to like kill people and eat babies, then that's a subjectively morally good position to have. I mean, it is subjectively morally good. Does that mean it is good? Of course not. Of course not, Brandon. And that makes no sense. If you don't there is evidence for that kind of flood. There's historical evidence in terms of the traditions, like the Sumerians and who else? The Epic of Gilgamesh has a flood creation story. The Chinese have a flood creation story. Who else has one? Obviously, Jews and Christians share the same one, and Muslims, but like that all comes from one, so that'll just count as one. But then also we find like, you know, man-made pieces of wood on the top of mountains in the Middle East, and like from boats. So, you know, I actually don't support the death penalty, Brandon. You're going to be surprised by that. Where water covered the entire earth, no evidence for that. Again, it's like, how do I know what the entire earth entails? How do I know what they meant when they wrote that? How do I know that the entire earth is not just the Mediterranean region or the Middle East, right? Okay. Again, I'm allowed to interpret the Bible and read it. So if the science unequivocally tells me that the earth was never fully covered by water, then I agree with that, okay? I'm not denying science. There's nothing mutually exclusive between science and religious belief. Nothing. Living in a state that has a death penalty, allowing it, is evil then. Well, I don't live in a state. Actually, do I? Is there the death penalty in California? I'm not sure. But also, that is not evil. Because are you saying that if you live in Nazi Germany and you're a good Jew, that you're evil because you live in Nazi Germany? You don't have to agree with the laws of the state that you live in, and it doesn't make you evil if you live in a state that has laws you don't agree with. Brandon. No, I don't want to go. This is good. This is good. You guys have good stuff, right? Okay, so David, how do you know about what the Bible says and you interpret the way you want? That's what I want to be careful of. Yeah, I don't want to be too relativistic, but I don't think I'm stepping out of tradition to say that there are other possible ways to interpret. Like, I wouldn't say, like, I can't read the Bible and just make up anything I want, but I can read the Bible and interpret it, and if it aligns with the tradition, what the wider church believes, or like verified church theologians, historians, and I take from the Orthodox or the Catholics, those are good sources, but modern theologians or anything, as long as there's a good chain of evidence, a good chain of reason for me to be able to hold that belief, then I can hold it. Okay? So I'm not just going to be able to make up anything I want about the Bible, and you know, I don't want to relativize the Bible and make it like my own religion. I want to be within a single tradition. Okay. Allowing evil as being evil. Okay, so yeah, exactly. Okay, here's another thing, Brant. He doesn't believe in evil. We mentioned that. That's right. So that's absurd. I mean, if you look around and you look at history and you don't believe in evil, and then you call me the irrational one, then I don't know what to tell you, Brandon. I don't know. The circling never ends. The logical circling, it never ends with comic Brandon. Okay. Brandon, what state do you live in? Did we already talk about this? Rhode Island? You said you're a transient. Does Rhode Island permit Anything you don't agree with? Oh, but you don't believe in evil. So it's not possible for you to be evil. Right, right. Great circular argumentation, Brandon. Great circular argumentation. Where's the evil? Nazi Germany, Stalinist Russia, Maoist China, uh, serial killers, Jeffrey Dahmer. Like, if you look at Jeffrey Dahmer and you go, that guy's just as good as anyone else, that guy's morally neutral like everybody else, then you're denying all of your senses. I don't have to deny any of my senses for my argument. You have to disagree that evil is just man-made. Where are you getting that from? If evil is just man-made, then it doesn't exist. Because it's subjective, right? Because any man could make evil or good. Like if men just decided what evil is, then anything could be evil or anything could be good. It's a word for doing bad. So where does bad come from? Why do you have a conscience? Why do you have a subjective experience of bad if it doesn't exist? Fundamentally. Where are you getting that from? All right, let's do it, Brandon. Let's get into this obscene, whatever this is, whatever this is about to be. Let's get into it. So let's say a girl is born with a brain injury and she watches a movie. Brains. You turning into a zombie, Brandon? Okay, but if evolution created it and it's just a material process and it only pays to be nice to people for your own survival, then it's not real, right? So if you want to kill people, you can kill people. If you want to do a genocide, you can do a genocide. It would be, you'd get along better with others if you didn't do a genocide or kill people, but you're not actually wrong for doing it. You just aren't optimally performing in the society. Is that what you're saying? It's not wrong to do genocide? It's not wrong to commit murder? Okay, so the brain injury girl knifes her mother. Where's the evil? The evil is in the girl knifing her mother because it's objectively wrong to knife your mother. It doesn't matter if she's conscious of it or not. Okay? I think it's evil for a cat as well to torture a mouse if it's not going to eat it or have any other purpose for that. Right? Is the movie evil, the brain injury girl, the mom, all of it? Where's the evil? Well, the mom's not evil. She's the victim. The movie's not evil. It's just a thing. I mean, maybe it has evil like influences in it. So there could be evil in that. And the girl is probably the evil one, even though she's not cognizant of it. Because like you said, or like I said, evil is objective. It's what happens. It's what we observe. It's what's real, right? So just because you aren't aware that you're doing an evil act doesn't mean you're not doing an evil act. You are wrong because we decided that as a whole. Killing is wrong according to society for good reason. Yeah, but I'm saying, but it's not, okay. But if you disagree with society, and remember, society is the one that just made up what's evil or not. If you disagree with society, then you're not actually wrong for disagreeing. You just see it a different way, right? So it's okay for you to murder people and kill them, genocide them on a fundamental level. Like you're not doing anything wrong. You just disagree with society. Okay, Brandon, you're about to define evil as intentionally doing it, but I just disagree. I mean, I don't know. You can call it that definition. Yeah, David, I know it's not okay. You're the one that's saying it is okay. So I understand why you're defending yourself, but yeah, no. If you disagree with, if under your system, yeah, but if you can avoid jail like Hitler was able to avoid, then you can do it, right? What's the harm? Well, I know what the harm is, but what's the wrongness? What's the moral bad? You did say you implied that it is okay to kill people because you're saying that it's just the opinion, it's just the subjective opinion of society to be able to kill people. So if everyone in society decided that we should kill all the Jews, which they did, that's not wrong. That's not wrong, David. Yeah, if it's only for our survival, and it's only for the passing of genes down to the next line, and the survival of the human race, then if you decide that the human race can survive anyway, and you'll be able to pass down your genes, and that you just want to kill somebody, like, okay, if you want to kill a child then, or like someone that's infertile, then it's not wrong because it doesn't affect survival, right? Yeah, of course I know it's wrong, but you don't know that. Because you're saying there's no objective morality. You're saying it's all decided subjectively by members, by human beings, members of society. And that collectively together, we just arbitrarily decide that it's wrong to kill. So if anyone arbitrarily decided that it's right to kill, how are they any less wrong? Like, how do they have any less standing than the people that decided it's wrong to kill under your model? Under my model, you don't kill because God commanded you not to kill, and you're made in the image of God, and all man is made in the image of God. So it's offensive to God to kill God, right? So that's why I don't kill. That's why I know it's wrong objectively, no matter where you are, no matter who you are, no matter if you're the counselor of Germany or just a normal guy in a just society. I know what's right and wrong. You can make no claim about that. You have no idea what's right or wrong. You're just saying, oh, society told me it's wrong, so I won't do it. But if society told you it's right, you would do it? Is that what you're saying? If society told you it's okay to turn in Jews to be gassed in a chamber, then that's fine because society decided that that's fine? No, I reject that wholesale. God does not murder. It is wrong because in order to start in this world, we have laws. Why do you respect life, David? It's arbitrary. If it's all just atoms and molecules bumping against each other, why do you respect life? And do you want to join this chat, David? I'd love to chat to you. I'm a lot nicer in person. You saw me. You saw me interacting with that other guy. You can explain your point a lot better. Like, it was so much easier to talk in person with that guy than to, because he wasn't really making sense when we were typing. I mean, he was, but like, it was just hard for me to get to it all. But then once we hop in the voice chat, boom, suddenly we're on the same page. We can go back and forth. We can understand each other, right? Because it's fun. Life is fun. Why? All right, fair enough. It's fun not to kill. But if I found it fun to kill, then what are you saying? That would be fine? Because life is fine no matter what? Yeah, all right, Brandon. Brandon, one of these days you're going to hop in this Discord. I swear to God. I swear to God, one of these days you're going to hop in here. Yeah, and who gave us laws and morals? Where did the laws and morals come from? Especially the morals. Like, why do we have morals? Where do morals come from? Inert matter? Atoms bumping against each other? Molecules? Chemistry, biology, physics? Is that where morals come from? Makes no sense. We created our own morals. So what was the intuition to create our own morals? Like, where did that come from? Oh, evolution created our morals. So anything that evolution says is fine, right? Because evolution tells you that you can kill people and other species. There are species like, for instance, a praying mantis kills their husband. So it's okay for you to kill your husband? Why does our nervous system tell our brains to feel moral feelings, Brandon? If our nervous system is a inert system of chemistry and biology, why would it ever have morals? Makes no sense. We did that so we can survive with each other in societies. Well, now you're just telling me, okay. No, it's not hard to understand. Yeah, that's why I don't understand why you don't understand it. Okay. The reason that we need to exist in societies is what? Evolutionarily, biologically. Morals are not subjective, they're objective. Different societies do have different morals, but that's just a question of what they're right about and what they're wrong about, because morality itself doesn't exist unless it exists objectively outside of human subjectivity. None of us want to die, so it's our advantage to not murder each other. Yeah, but a praying mantis wants to die? A praying mantis wants to die? A fly doesn't create societies. Why is it more moral to have a society rather than to thrive and biologically evolve in some other way? Yeah. Yeah, Brandon, gotcha. No, if I can't think. Exactly. Exactly. What's your point there? Why would our society evolve? I'm a hill people trapped in a society after generations of forced labor. Good, good. Unfortunately, you'd have to procreate for there to be further generations, so I think you're going to be out of this cycle. You asked why won't a fly have more? No, I asked why. I asked why we would evolve into a society when that's clearly not necessary and not even preferred in nature, because no other animal has a society. And you say because they don't have brains big enough to think and form the society. So why is it good? Why, if you think more, do you get morals? Do you get society? Huh? There's a hell of a lot more flies than people. So it's not a purely evolutionary biological thing. You obviously can evolve and produce and be a massive success without a society. So why, as we get smarter, do we realize the benefit of morals and society? There is no supernatural explanation for morals that can be explained without God. Only subjective morality can be explained without God, not objective morality. And if you believe in only subjective morality, then you believe that one society's subjective morals are the same as another society's subjective morals. But Germany had a subjective moral structure, didn't they? So you're saying that is just as valid as America, who did not want to kill all the Jews? Brandon, you crazy. David, don't tell me you agree with that. Don't tell me that Germany's subjective morality is as valid as America's subjective morality. If you do, then you're no better than comic Brandon right now. That's insane. You can't condemn Germany? You can't condemn the Nazis? Yeah. Brandon's about to tell us that there were only 6,000 Jews, not 6 million. Okay, I'll ask the question again. If there is no objective morality, you agree? You just stated that, so you believe there's no objective morality. Then there's absolutely no way to condemn Germany's subjective morality, which led to them killing the Jews, versus another subjective morality, which tells you not to kill anybody, especially the Jews. Get me, David? How do you condemn Germany if there's no objective morality? Morals are just subjective. Everyone gets to choose them. What makes someone more right for choosing one system over another? Yeah, exactly, Brandon. See, David? See the danger of you become like Brandon. You cannot condemn Germany. You have to ask yourself if they knew it was wrong. Killing Jews isn't moral. All right, now we're doing a circle. So I don't actually have much time, so I'm not gonna do this anymore. But think about that, David. You have to ask yourself if they knew it was wrong. What's wrong? You just said there's no wrong. You said there's no objective wrong, no objective morality. Killing Jews isn't moral, but according to them, it was moral. So if subjective morality is the only thing that exists, and according to their subjective view, it is moral to kill the Jews, then they're not wrong in your framework. Again, I'm not saying that. I don't want you to say that. That's an insane take to have. Only neckbeards like Brandon believe that. So don't fall into that trap, David. Okay. I know you can condemn them, but you can't condemn them and be consistent with your logic. Okay? Because you're saying there's only subjective morality. And it was their subjective moral structure that said it's okay, it's actually good to kill Jews. So if it's all subjective, and that's their subjective view, that's how it is. That's their morals. Their morals are just as valid as anyone else's. All right, David. Think about that. Think about that. Look up William Lane Craig and objective morality if you're interested. He'll be able to explain it a lot better than I can. All right, guys. Peace, love. Pray for you guys. I hope you're doing well. And I'll be back. This was fun. Groups of people can do that, however, the whole won't allow it. So you're saying it's okay for groups of people to have their own subjective morals. Like everyone just gets to choose their morals. Yeah, I disagree. All right, we'll agree to disagree for now. Love you too, Brandon. Love you too, brother. All right, peace, everybody.